Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This video is the in continuation with the previous video. In this video, we'll create one basic workflow inside the standard logic app, and then we are going to explore what is the stateful and stateless options when we create a workflow. So if you remember, this is the standard logic app which we created in last video, and if we see here in workflows, there are no workflows inside it. Let it refresh for a bit moment. Okay, so we are going to create one new workflow inside this standard logic app. So I click on it, and here you see there are two options we get: stateful and stateless. Now, what is the stateful and stateless types? Okay, if you see here stateful, they are saying optimized for high reliability, ideal for process business transitional data, and this is optimized for low latency, ideal for request response and processing IoT events. Okay, so we'll see what basically this difference is. Okay, so when we come to stateful, in stateful standard logic app, in workflow, what happens is it saves all the stages of your run in external storage. Okay, whereas if you create stateless workflow, it is not going to save any of your workflow run details in any of the external storage account. It will save just in memory. Now, for stateful operations, we can resubmit the interrupted runs, or that can be automatically, gets redone when all the downgraded systems, let's say we are calling some service and that is in stop state. So that run will get failed. But if we have created a stateful, and once that service gets up, so that will be that stage, we can run from that stage itself. Okay, but in stateless we have to resubmit it manually. We'll see in action what actually this means. And then for stateful logic app, we have all the connections available, all the connectors available, but stateless we have some limitations of the managed connectors doesn't available here. Okay, we'll see those also when we create it. And the stateful workflows are suitable for large size of files. It takes much time to run these stateful workflows rather than stateless. So let's first go and create one stateful workflow, and then we'll go deeper into those points. So first create the stateful. Okay. It will appear in a bit here, and meanwhile let's create the stateless. It's LA. Basically, this is the workflow, not the LA. But anyways, okay. Okay. So in this stateful logic app, basically we should call it as a workflow. So I just created few simple steps over here. If you go to design, let it open. It's just one recurrence step, and then we have the compose. At the same time, if we see the first stateless workflow, and if I come to designer, I just want to quickly show you what are the things is not available here as a trigger. Okay, so if I come here, and let's say if I want to delete this, okay, and if I create a trigger separate, and if I search recurrence, okay, so we don't see any recurrence trigger here. Okay, at the same time, in state full workflow, here is a list of our workflows here, and if I go to stateful workflow in designer, so we can see the step as a recurrence. So this is available. So there is a difference between what are the connectors available for stateful workflow and what are the connectors available for stateless workflow. But anyway, we can select all the, when we create the starting the workflow, we can select the triggers and actions from over here. And if you see here, there is a runtime. We'll go also into this, what this runtime means in app and share. If you select enable, all the managed connector will come here, built-in connectors, and these are the shared connectors, okay, which runs outside of this scope. So we'll come into detail of this one. So I'm just discarding it, and I have just created is a HTTP received. We are just creating one simple message here, and it is just a response, okay. So let's first run this uh, workflow, which is the stateless workflow. So how we can run it is, we'll go to overview, okay, and if you see, I have just this option. If you see here, the state type is stateless and debug mode, which means the debug mode is on. If debug mode is on, it means we can see the history of it, okay. So now I have earlier I have run it, and this is the history for this one. So let's run it again, run with some payload. We can run directly from here also, because it is an HTTP triggered logic app. So this is the URL, this post method, and just click on run. It's running, and see we got the response from that last step. And if we refresh it, we'll see that run history come over here. If I click here, this is the details, okay. Now if I see the run history, we'll see the run history over here, and this is the trigger history. This is the get started option. So I'll just click on the run history over here, and I can see what are the things happen inside this section in this one, okay. And we can resubmit it from here. But now let's say I disable this debug mode. I don't want to debug it any more time, okay. So now see the state type has been changed from stateless debug mode to just state, and now we'll run it again. It will take some time to refresh, it seems. Okay, here it got the URL and everything, and I click on running. See, we got the response again from here. And now if we refresh it, so let's see if we get the trigger history or not. See, last time we have seen the trigger history and run history as soon as the run was finished. But now in this case, we don't see the run history. So in stateless, we have an option to see the run history as well. But as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't store the actions and inputs and runs, okay. So if you want specifically to get it stored somewhere, to get it in memory, if you want to get it stored, and if you want to see the previous run, so we can just click on the enable debug mode, and we can see it, okay. So now we'll see what happened to this stateful workflow. So if you go to the overview of stateful, see, I don't see any option like debug mode or something like that here. These are the run histories over here, and these are the trigger history. It will automatically come. So last time it ran at 6.7, and what we can do is, if I click on any of the this run history, and if I want to resubmit, I can resubmit it from here. We can resubmit in bulk also here, okay. It's resubmitting, and just refresh it. See, the new instance come here, and we can easily go and see what happened to that run, okay. So this is the basic things between the stateless and stateful workflows. So basically, when we have the large size of file and long running processes, we obviously go for stateful, because in enterprise scenario also we need to see what happened to my request in production, right? Okay, so now we'll just quickly go through the connections and other steps here. So you see, this is the same as we used to see in the consumption based logic app, and this is the workflow section where we'll see all the workflows related to the standard logic app. There is another portion here is this connections, which is nothing but the what are the connections used here. So now you see there are four types of tabs here. One is the API connection, one is a service provider connection, one is a function connection, one is a JSON view connection. So you see there is nothing here. API connection is not there, service provider is not there, function connection is not there, and JSON view of those connections not there. Why? Because in our workflows, we did not use any kind of services which requires a connection, API connection. For example, any storage services, or to connect with any my Office 365, right? no sort of that thing happen in the SQL, right? That's why this section is empty, but we'll go detail in this as well. And in the parameters, we'll see what are the parameter comes here. If in the workflow we give some parameters, then those values comes here. These are artifacts for schema maps assemblies. These are same as we used to give it in the integration account. And these are some settings which will go through in detail in later videos. I hope you have liked this video. In our upcoming videos, we'll see more differences between the consumption based and standard logic app. Thank you for watching.